Hi everybody, I'm here with Sandy Levey-Lunden and Len Satov.
Right.
And we're here at the Miracle Conference, and I've managed to grab you two guys to talk about relationships. But first of all, Sandy, we were talking about kind of how you got there, how you came to be a counselor and to be doing the work that you do, which is based very much on relationships and the holy relationship, because we're here at ACIM conference, we can talk about it in those terms. The holy relationship. But first, let's start off with you. How is it that you came to be doing what you do? And I know there's a lot of, it's a long story. Tell us the themes.
Briefly, I would say that everyone's life, including my own, has shaped what I do today.
Yeah.
And since I was a little girl, I had been looking for the meaning of life. Why one person suffered and one person had an easier life, and what would give inner peace. I started into my search in New York City, where I was born in the Bronx, when I was 7 years old, looking for the purpose of my mother's life, actually. And I wanted to know why she was here, why God had sent her.
Why were you thinking about her and not your own?
Well, I thought since she was bigger, she might have a bigger thing going on, and I was just a little girl.
Right.
So I hadn't conceived the idea that I would have a purpose too. I thought more like an adult would have a purpose. And I thought of her as a bigger person, and so I was more curious about her than I was about myself.
Yeah.
And one of my jokes with myself and maybe her too was when she finally said, "I came here to be your mother, and maybe God sent me for that reason." I said, "Well, if that was the real reason you were here, then you would be happy all the time, and I see sometimes you're not. So that can't be the reason. You got to be a grander reason than that." And I was in search of people's purpose my whole life and how they would attain inner peace.
Sure.
And relationships are what I studied, even as a small child.
Wow.
So I watched everybody's relationship, which ones looked happy, which ones were filled with what I called, today what I'd call guilt. The way they communicated with each other, did they come from love? Were they saying everything? Were they really all there for each other? So I thought relationships was the most interesting thing about life. And why are we here?
Wow. Those are very two kind of key things, really, which is A Course in Miracles,
right.
Isn't it? It's kind of like a real deep metaphysical search for meaning in what is the whole meaning of everything.
Right.
And relationships, which is, of course, very much interlinked with why we are all here, to have relationships.
Right. The holy relationship in the Course in Miracles takes up a huge course of the study of it. We talk about these special relationships and holy relationships for a great deal of this Course in Miracles book.
Yeah. And how about you, Len? Was it similar for you?
No, I was much of a slower starter. I didn't have these insights as you can ask any deep questions, although I do remember as a very young boy thinking there's got to be more than this. Even then, it's kind of a two-part thing. I kind of noticed people seem to be going through the motions in their lives, but they seemed, even then, it seemed to me like they're living out some program, or they're like actors on a stage. I didn't say it to myself that way, but I thought, this is very strange. And then, I got caught up after being a kid, I got caught up in life itself, and it wasn't till later on, after I'd gone through a lot of deep emotional suffering myself, that I was motivated to look deeper. And of course, Spirit brought things into my life that started to open up at a beyond the conscious level. Started to open up, I'd say even at the super conscious level, some greater insight into, or at least nudging from inside. Here, go here, do that, pick up this book, like that. And I wasn't particularly trying to follow that, but I did. Something let me follow these things. So that took me eventually to noticing that people, even when I was very young, people would, if they were in difficulty, they'd want to come to me and talk to me for some reason. And I didn't. I thought that was no different than anybody else. But in looking back on it later on, I saw, oh, they're seeing something here, a safety, they would call it to me. They felt safe with me. And so I've been doing counseling for many years, and also in the course, in the context of management training. I was doing management training, and even in that context, we were going deeper, because that was just a natural thing to do. And of course, since about the 70s, I was driven, because of this suffering, to do my own inner work, even though I resisted it hugely, because the ego was terrified. I didn't understand it that way at the time. But something was compelling me, even though it scared me a lot, to do the deeper work on myself. And of course that opened up, my counseling practice opened up. The more I did of my work, the more the practice would open up. And Sandy and I met about 11 years ago. I was taking one of her workshops because I'd arrived in Vancouver and I'd had a series of relationships over the many years, of course, but they always seemed to have the same dysfunctional kind of pattern show up. And I realized, well, the only common element in these relationships is me. So, what's going on with me? I need to have a better look at that. Yeah. And so we recognized that we had the same purpose. And so really from that point on, we started working together in this. And I would say, like in my practice, the focus really is on the individual, and of course every individual is drawn to relationship, but really the commonality with us is to go to the core of what's in the way of us really knowing ourselves as who we truly are and embracing that. And that is at the essence of our work. And of course it's really kind of funny sometimes. It's not a big surprise. The ego's terrified of this. Yes. And so because this work is so deep, we have some very funny stories about how people try to get out of doing the work. Even though they've signed up and paid, they'd say, you know what, you can keep the money. We got everything. We had an epiphany. It's really kind of humorous to watch the antics of the ego. Yeah. Anyway, that's like a condensed version of how I came to be here and how we came to work together.
And how did A Course in Miracles, how does it feature in all of this?
Well, it's interesting. Mostly it started really, in truth, when I met Sandy, but some years earlier, I picked up a book by Ken Wapnick called Forgiveness in Jesus. I don't know why. It's one of those things I was saying, how you're just drawn to stuff. Yeah. Anyway, it was very powerful for me, way beyond the mind. I mean, my mind really could understand some of it, but there was something recognized in that. Yeah. And then, I don't really remember when that was. Probably that was in the 80s, let's say. And, I was doing my own work and following many different spiritual paths or esoteric paths. Whatever I was drawn to do, I would go and do that. And so when we started working together, well, the Course reappeared because that's foundational in Sandy's workshops.
Yeah. So. And when did it come up for you, Sandy?
Well, for the first time, I was given the books in 1980 when they were in 3 volumes by one of my students and clients, because I was a life coach since 1979. And how I got to be a life coach was that somebody asked me to coach their life. I never thought about becoming a life coach. Then it was 15 people, then it was 20. And all of a sudden I was busy constantly. So one of my students gave me these books called A Course in Miracles. Several weeks later, another student gave me a set. Now I had 6 on the shelf.
Were these like the big
huge ones? The huge ones. And I opened these books and I said, if these books are true, then nothing that I think, feel, or believe is true presently. And I would, to be a student of these books, would have to change my whole way that I think, feel, and believe, and ultimately live. Because when you change your thoughts, your feelings, and your beliefs, and come to a new realization, you're taking a new life. And I wasn't prepared to do that. But I was prepared to read it a great deal and look at it. And was amazed by what it said. And I agreed with a great deal of it. And understood it very deeply. And many years before that, when I was studying my undergraduate degree at the City College of New York, and I was studying in the School of Psychology at Columbia University, they were actually writing the books on top of me.
Wow.
And I was energetically a part of it for many years.
Wow.
Only
well, of course you didn't know.
I didn't know it existed. I didn't know what they were doing, but I was drawn to study there at the Columbia School of Psychology.
That's phenomenal.
And so it was my destiny always to study A Course in Miracles, because as a child I had only one goal when people would ask me, what do you want? I'd only answer one time, peace. I always said peace. I didn't even know what I meant by that. But I thought, peace would be the absence of all conflict that I saw as a child. And, I was really looking for what the Course in Miracles would call, from Lesson 185, the peace of God, or total inner peace. How would I attain that in my lifetime? Or forever?
Well, I think it's fascinating. I mean, in the conversations that I've been having in the last 2 days, for instance, I was talking to another lady, Ariel Essex, and we were kind of making that bridge between NLP and then NLP plus, and in the same way here with relationships, we can approach relationships without the spiritual aspect or component, and still have some kind of effects, but we're still rearranging furniture. But then when we add spirituality, when we add A Course in Miracles, then it becomes something dramatically different, doesn't it? It's something beyond.
Yeah. I was looking for the answer of all pain and suffering in relationship when I received the breakthrough during a crisis in my life in 1990 when I lived in Sweden. And I did get to live in Sweden for 11 years, even though I'm an American. So I married a Swedish man. And most people don't realize you just can't go and live in another country.
No.
You have to have a reason.
Yes.
They will let you in the country.
Especially Nordic countries. They must be
Any
strict
country.
about that.
They today are even stricter than they ever were before.
Yeah.
So in this going there and going through the experience of marrying him and then having our crisis between each other, which was about it, I felt he had fallen out of love with me and in love with someone else. I prayed to God for 30 days and 30 nights to the answer of all pain and suffering in relationship. And then received the process that I today call the power of clearing, which is a process that completely matches A Course in Miracles. So it was told to me by an inner voice. I received a chart for big T and little t, and a whole series of clearings, and a whole series of materials that would later become 16 different classes that I wrote for individuals over a 20-year period.
What does that mean, big T, small t?
Big T would be a big truth, like in the Course in Miracles book. Love, peace, oneness. I am as God created me, which is perfect in His image. I am that I am. Unlimitedness, innocence, perfect peace, pure love, oneness, eternity. That's big T.
Right.
And little t would be everything I think, feel, and believe, all my perceptions.
It's really this world that we're living in.
Sure.
That's little t.
Right. Fear, guilt, all types of ego games, like the
The
money
illusion.
game, the sex game, the power game, the control game, being right, feeling abandoned, feeling separate, feeling betrayed. So all of those things I mentioned, which are little t, I have processes in the class to help someone at a very deep experiential level through a clearing, and two parts of that clearing is forgiveness processes about what they made up about themselves, release that entire ego illusion so that they're as clear as they can and still yet living on the earth in as much big T as possible. Peace, oneness, joy, love.
Yeah. That sounds to me like a very individual process.
It is. And that's why we usually have in the training one coach that's trained. We have a coaching program that trains people in the process called the Power of Clearing Coaching Certification Program. It's a 10-day course, 140 hours, how to take someone through this process and changes their life because they change their thinking.
So
life changes.
How does that relate to how does clearing relate to relationships then, holy relationship?
Okay. In the we'll first define what I would call the special relationship.
Let's define
It's
that.
a relationship in which I try to get a perceived lack of love from someone else or something else, or marry someone or in relationship with them, so I would be smarter, richer, sexier because I have them, or they would love me more or give me more, something that I didn't think I had myself.
Sure.
To find a missing link or a perceived lack of something, usually love in some way, as part of what I call the ego illusion from somebody else, like money, peace, power, acknowledgement, to get more individualized of my ego. And a holy relationship is any teaching learning situation in which both people have looked upon themselves and see no lack. They might think, feel, or believe there's a lack at some perception level, but somewhere they get their whole and complete, perfect sons or daughters of God, 100% innocent, and that they don't need anyone else. But the purpose of the holy relationship is to confirm who I really am, big T, love, oneness, peace, joy, when I enter my little t of fear, pain, suffering, anger, guilt, and forget this holy relationship partner will remind me of my big T truth of myself. And that we wholeheartedly want to work together on a purpose that we both agree to. It's a conscious holy relationship, and we're each other's teacher and student, so it's a circle. I'm teaching sometimes, learning sometimes. We're supporting each other to go further with our awakening. It's a relationship of healing our minds.
Right.
And we can have many holy relationships. And it's a conscious, active process I'm talking about, where we confirm truth and help the person, do not agree with them on their ego illusion. Like, for instance, they come up and they say, I don't think you should like that person because they did this and this to me. And the purpose of the relationship is not to collude with the story, but to find out what their thoughts, feelings, and beliefs about themselves are, and to clear that at the level of thought, feeling, and belief instead of action. So if you think they disregarded you or didn't acknowledge you, what it is that you're clearing in your mind, that you think they don't see you, they don't respect you, that they think you're not good enough.
Sure.
So you're on the outside, you're separate. So we're clearing what it says about you through very structured clearing processes that are deeply emotional. And when we've cleared enough, we get less of an ego voice talking to ourselves. So we don't have so much strategy or talking. So it's a very deep relationship of joining and support and peace.
Okay, I think I see a little bit now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's really bringing it back to the self. But then obviously we're looking at what we think about relationships in our perception. It's not about the relationships which we've made up, but kind of like the images that we've made up. And clearing would look at that and investigate that.
Everything that I made up that I think you're thinking about me, and why you're making me wrong, or why I'm not good enough, or why I'm making you wrong, or why we can't be joined, or why we're not one, or why I think you betrayed me or abandoned me. One of the things that was acute to me was I had been teaching 10 years when I first came to Dalarna, Sweden. And Dalarna, Sweden is a tiny little town where St. Nicholas lives. There's not even a movie theater in this town. And most people, if you said I was going to go out somewhere, you'd say, where am I going to go out? Because there is no place. And while I was sitting in the class, I noticed something. This is before I had the course materials, before I studied A Course in Miracles, that a lot of people in this classroom that I was teaching in my seminar felt abandoned or betrayed by their mom or dad. My mind kept going on, well, where would their mom and dad go? Because there is no place. Where would they leave them? You know, how it was like a family town. And yet they felt this way. So I said, there must be something more to it at a universal level that would give them this idea that they're separate or abandoned or been betrayed than meets my eye at the moment. And that's when I began to think, there's something more at play here than I hadn't seen before. And of course, when I started to work with the Course in Miracles, I saw that was a universal idea, that we think, feel, and believe we've been abandoned and betrayed by God, and that we've reversed it now and projected it onto everyone, or mom and dad and our friends.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Let's go into that a little bit, because obviously the father and mother relationships are the first relationship that we develop in life. And I mean, by and large, the 99.95% of people are going to have some kind of problem with that, right?
Yes, I have noticed that.
No matter how, from the outside, no matter how idyllic an upbringing might be, and those are pretty rare, kids make up all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
When anything happens where it doesn't feel good, they can make up a judgment that I'm not lovable, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not important, but it won't be conscious, when they're very small. But they go down into the unconscious, and they become like computer programs. And the nature of a computer program is it keeps producing the same results over and over again, unless you remove the program or change it in some way. So that's really what has to happen. You're quite right. The primary relationships, the important people in a child's life, even in utero, when things happen, they have an energetic impact.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, even there. For example, if someone was not wanted when two people found out they were pregnant, if the child was not wanted, energetically they're getting the impact of that.
Sure.
And they pick it up in some way.
Wow.
So what happens is, after the first 7 years have gone by, everybody's got pretty much their whole package of programs in them. And these programs keep repeating over and over again in different circumstances, and they draw them in unconsciously. And really the true purpose of it is so that they'll be able to see what's in the unconscious. Because if it's unconscious, you can't see it. So it needs to be projected out into the world in some way, so you know what it is that's preventing me from being who I really am, even though that may not be conscious.
Yes.
But that's where it resides.
Yes.
And that's how they run. And so that's what this work is for, is to go down into the unconscious, or we call it the basement, and to help people face these things, because it's scary to the ego. To help them face these things and bring them up out of the basement into the light. The ego does not like to be in the light. It wants to be in the dark, right? So that's really, in a nutshell again, that's the essence of how this all starts.
And we shine the light of the Holy Spirit from the Course in Miracles, which is the bridge between big T truth and little t truth. Because if you read the Course in Miracles, it says God doesn't acknowledge that we actually are in this ego world. He gave us the bridge tool, which is the Holy Spirit, between the world that we think we're in, this ego world illusion, and the true world, which we never left, which is the world of heaven. And when many people come to our classes, all the classes that are on the www.sandylevy.com.
I'll put a link on the description.
Yes, that's fine. They haven't acknowledged the idea that they feel separate from God. They may not have any of these concepts of A Course in Miracles, but through the experience of the class, they see it in their own experience. They don't have to believe in the Course. They don't have to read the Course necessarily before they start. Maybe they'll read the Course after. Maybe they'll become an avid student of A Course in Miracles. But they will see the whole clearing through their own mind. And it will be more real to them at that moment than anything else.
What's beautiful about that is we've taught the clearing process and worked with people who are fundamentalists, atheists, agnostics. And it really comes back to an earlier question you were saying, yeah, this stuff works with anybody, whether they're spiritual or not. If the spiritual component is there for them, we can do that much more because they're already coming back into the remembering of who they are. Yeah. So there's a lot more that can be accessed and worked with at that point.
Yeah. And obviously the next question I'm going to ask is, tell us a little bit about this clearing process. And obviously I know it takes days of workshops to...
Sure, you got lots of tape, right?
Lots of tape, there's a lot of interviews going on, but time.
It's a 3-part process.
Okay.
And we have many different kinds of clearings that go with the different trainings. But essentially, in all trainings, we do the elementary clearing process, the advanced clearing and the basic clearing. The advanced clearing talks about what you feel like, what I want you to know, Mother, I felt you weren't there for me, which makes me feel that I've been abandoned just like when. And it can go back to a scene from your history. And it may not go back to a scene. Either way, we take what's there from a subject like mother or father, or we can even do money or power or sexuality. We can clear with any subject and see the whole content of someone's ego mind story according to a subject. So that's the first part. So step one, bring up everything in the ego illusion on that subject.
Maybe before you give more detail, I just say what the steps are in general so you can get a sense of a flow.
Sure.
So the first step is where one's always clearing with another character, and you may be holding the space for me. If you're holding the space in the clearing, you might be my dad. But you're just holding the space as that, as your
symbol.
Who you really are as my dad.
Yeah.
The higher self of your dad.
Yeah,
the highest self of my dad.
Yeah,
that's
who he really is, in truth.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do anything special, just you're holding a safe space for me to be able to do the clearing. So in the first step, it's kind of like a clearing of the field. What we do in the first step is a person says every negative thing that they can think of to that character they're clearing, let's say in this case, Dad, until they're done. They say every negative thing that they can think of in a certain form that we teach them is a certain way to do it.
Right.
And when we always know, it's always interesting, we always know when we're done the first step. And that kind of clears the field energetically to go into the 2 forgiveness steps. So the first forgiveness step that we go into after that clearing out process, so to speak, is a forgiveness where we correct all the misperceptions that we had about ourselves. It's not about the other person. It's about what are the misperceptions I had about myself, like I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not important, there's something wrong with me, etc. There's maybe a dozen key core beliefs down there.
Sure.
The third step, after having done that, and that's shorter, because in the first step, many things get said, but there would be themes that emerge from the first step, and those are where the corrections get done in the second step. Then the third step is very beautiful as well. It's a forgiveness step also, where we bring back in what we forgot, which was eternal truth. We forgot that you are love, that you are innocent, that I am innocent, and we bring that back in this very beautiful step. And the reason it works so powerfully, and this is why this tool is so amazing, is because the answers that people are given in steps 2 and steps 3 particularly bypass the ego mind, and they go directly to the conditioning, and they energetically unfreeze it or release it in layers. We never know how much is going to go. But people, I was saying to the group earlier that people will often feel a shift energetically. When they hear these answers, it's very powerful.
So it's a cellular shift. The clearing makes a cellular shift.
Yeah.
It can free body pain from somebody. It can free if we've had secrets or things we've made up, or things we haven't said. It's a total communication process. It'll release parts of pain in somebody's body. It'll even release the core of the unconscious guilt that creates and is part of an illness in somebody's physical body.
Wow.
So it's a very powerful thing. We've seen people heal conditions, allergies, urinary tract infections. We've seen people disappear the blocks to conceive pregnancies, to declare fibromyalgia, many things as a result of the emotional clearing. They heal themselves by going back into it and reconnecting with it and undoing what they made up about it.
Yeah.
We don't heal anybody. Nobody can heal anybody. They heal themselves. So in our presence, we are privileged to see people release things that they've had all their lives. When we finish the course, we're so happy because we've done something that is so important. And we're just absolutely privileged to be a part of this clearing. Now, when we work in the course, we work with a team. That's where the power of clearing coaches come in. Because either they trained for 25 years ago with me before there was a training.
How long have you been doing this, by the way?
32 years.
32 years.
Right, I'm 66.
It's older than I am.
She's probably thinking of you, though. Well, I'll get meet Kenneth one day.
I wasn't even in utero.
And I feel I'll be doing it for many more years because I would never retire from what I love. You know, that's how can I retire from what is me, what I love, what is my purpose? Our function here is forgiveness through the course. So, you know, every day I'm forgiving any ego thought that I say limits me in being the unlimited being I'm supposed to be. So we're doing a lot of forgiveness in this. And teaching people how to use this on a moment-by-moment basis. You can use this clearing with yourself the minute the course is over on anything you want to clear on. But if you have another person holding the space for you, it's easier for you to let go of very deep things that you've held your whole life because they're holding the context of your release.
It's very powerful for people who are course students to take our workshops because they already have a lot of the things in place to help them get it. And they get it very quickly and they can go very deeply with it. So it's a direct application of what the course teaches in how to release the ego.
Right. We just recently had a class called True Woman's Power.
True Woman's Power.
True Woman's Power.
True Woman's Power.
And that's one of those 16 different courses. There's the Power of Clearing, which is a one-day course. The Power of Clearing Coaching Certification Training, which is a 10-day course. We have the Holy Relationship Training, which we'll be having in England, in Stowmarket in 2 weeks. It's in Suffolk, 2.5 days, 3 days actually. It could be a 10-day course. We have a 10-day Power of Clearing. We even have a 3-week Power Holy Relationship Training.
Wow. You guys
So
have
we
a
have
whole buffet of
a whole buffet, Art of Joining a Family, the Art of Merging. There's a family training called the Art of Joining a Family, which would go to someone's whole family, 4 generations.
Wow.
And do the clearing with everybody in the room, or a business, the art of transforming a business. So it's many different processes that go with that particular topic. And I wrote them or received them when somebody came to me with a challenge in their life. I said, this is a new training. But 20 years ago, I did the first True Woman's Power. And I was resistant to do it. It was at the request of 2 of my students. They said, can you make a course just for women? I said, why would I make a course just for women if there's no women and no men? It's just beings. They said, because we want you to. We want you to do it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. But I didn't think it would be anything really powerful. But when I saw the whole ego illusion of what the women went through in their mind about their cycles, their birth, getting their period, going into menopause, all the different cycles of being a woman, we had a huge amount of work that we could do in the ego illusion of clearing. So we just finished doing 9 women who are all part of one Course in Miracles group in North Vancouver. That was very, very exciting.
Now that's interesting. I mean, there's so many things we can talk about here, but actually this is personal because, you know, I think I've seen teachers who have a lot of, let's say, female audiences. They talk about Course in Miracles specifically. And I guess my ego part of my mind goes, so why are they just teaching female students? You know, but then I suppose there is a great deal of wisdom in approaching people with a certain set of circumstances. All right, I mean, in the illusion where we all are, I mean, people are built differently and people have different.
Yeah, I want to say that
needs.
sometimes in the Holy Relationship Training we have more men than women. And that's amazing to me. So I want to say that I have been gifted to able to receive a lot of men into this work.
Mm.
That there are more and more men who want to be conscious and clear and find their feelings and do the forgiveness with their mother and their father. And we also have a true men's power course.
Mm.
So it's taught by someone else, not me. And it's a similar process. So I want to make it very clear that we do get both men and women.
Yep.
And in the holy relationship training, sometimes we get an actual equal amount.
Mm.
Even though there may be some couples and then there may be some people who would like to have a very deep, conscious, holy relationship.
Yeah.
And go and learn the tools. Because what we're actually doing that's different is not only processing someone's whole life, but giving them concrete tools to use at any moment when they get stuck in their ego pain.
Mm. Mm.
And people to work with and a support system of others who can help them.
Mm.
So there are a variety of doorways that people can come through. You know, if you had just had one workshop, it would really only register with certain people who want to come to, on that particular theme, let's say. But when there's a variety of workshops, it speaks to people in different ways. Just like you might pick up one book that you're drawn to, but you wouldn't pick up another because it didn't speak to you or you weren't even aware of it.
Yeah.
Another person might pick that one up, but you're all going to end up in the same place,
Yeah.
ultimately. So
Yeah.
that's how it's useful to have different themes
Sure.
like that.
And a holy relationship doesn't always mean it's a romantic relationship. Right?
Definitely not. It could be any form or formless. A special relationship has a very strict form. I will give you this if you give me that. You do this and I do that.
Right.
A holy relationship can be a formless thing
Mm.
with no form at all. Of course, you can
Mm.
have a holy relationship and be married. You could have a holy relationship and be colleagues. But it doesn't imply any sexuality or romanticism necessarily, but it can be included.
Mm. Mm. And okay, this is going beyond that because I think you can have a special relationship with things. Can't you? You can-
Definitely. You can have a special relationship with anything.
Right, with money and your
with
car.
your money, your car, your book, your pen,
Your dog.
your coffee cup, your dog, your mother, your sister, anything where you're trying to get a perceived lack of love by having this particular object and you're very attached to it and
Yeah.
if you lost it you would be very upset.
Mm.
So
But by the same vein, this is kind of silly, but you can't have a holy relationship with your car, can you?
no,
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 not
no,
really.
you can't.
Although I was thinking maybe the one exception might be Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway, where he bonded very closely
The
with that
beach
soccer
ball.
ball or volleyball. What
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
call
yeah.
it? Wilson.
Wilson,
remember? Yeah. Saved his life.
Right.
Sandy and Len, it's been a great conversation.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap this up. Any last things you'd like to say? Mention
I
what's
just-
upcoming for you guys? You guys are
Well,
doing
we're
great,
upcoming next weekend with Ian Patrick and the Miracle Network. We'll have Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, the Choosing Freedom Way Out, the way out of all pain and suffering, and the way into who you really are,
Mm.
right outside of London in a beautiful home there.
Mm.
And that's the 27th, 28th, and 29th, Friday night starting at 6.
Right.
And the following weekend, we do the Holy Relationship Process, May 4th to 7th, because Monday's a holiday, starting on Friday night at 6 again at the Victorian Schoolhouse Retreat in Stone Market of John and Sue Renard.
Mm.
And people will be staying right around there in little cobblestone houses and walking there. And
Lovely.
we love it.
Hopefully the weather will be good.
Yes, and we have beautiful food included in it. And if people can't make it past Sunday night, we can complete the process for them on Sunday night. If those that can stay on Monday can work longer with it.
Wonderful.
So Monday's a holiday, the 7th.
And this is all on your website, yeah?
Yes, under www.sandylevey, SANDYLEVEY, and also under the Miracle Network.
On the American Network.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again, Len and Sandy.
Thank you.
Thank
It was
you.
a fantastic
That's
interview.
great.
And
Yes.
safe travels.
Thank you.
And wish you a great workshop.
Thank you.
Thanks so
So
much.
that was Sandy and Len. Bye for now.